I want to ask you a serious question. If you hired someone to manage a very dangerous, very expensive, very consequential project, and you asked them when it would be finished, and they looked you dead in the eye and said, when I feel it in my bones, would you feel good about that? Because that is the exact answer the President of the United States gave when asked when the Iran war will end. Not a military objective, not a diplomatic benchmark, not even a rough timeline, just vibes, constitutional, taxpayer-funded, soldier-sacrificing vibes. Welcome to the show. I'm Davy Jones Carpenter. We are 2 weeks into a war that nobody voted for, nobody planned for, and apparently nobody knows how to end. Let's talk about it. Before we get to the bones, let me walk you through what Trump has actually said about this war since it started on February the 28th. Because this is a masterclass in saying everything and meaning nothing. Day 2. Trump says the war could take up to 4 to 5 weeks. Quote, this was just an excursion into something that had to be done. When we end at a House Republican retreat in Miami, Trump says we're getting very close to finishing that too. So now it's almost done. Wednesday of week 2, Trump tells Axios there is nothing left to bomb in Iran, claims the U.S. is way ahead of the timetable, and adds, I want you to hear this. Anytime I want it to end, it will end. Anytime I want it to end, it will end. That is a man describing a light switch. That is not how wars work. That is not how Iran works. That is not how the Strait of Hormuz works. That same Wednesday, at a rally in Kentucky, Trump told the supporters Washington won in Iran. The conflict is over. Over, he said. It was over on Wednesday. Thursday, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is asked if the war is over. He says, and this is a direct quote, so it's not for me to post it, whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end. That's his, and he'll continue to communicate that. The Defense Secretary of the United States does not know if we are at the beginning, middle, or end of this war. He's pointing at Trump. Trump said it was over. Hegseth doesn't know if it's over. The war is not over. And then Friday on Fox Radio with Brian Kilmeade to Bones. Kilmeade asks, when are you going to know when it's over? Trump says, when I feel it in my bones. When I feel it in my bones. That is the exit strategy for Operation Epic Fury, a war that has killed 13 American service members in 2 weeks, a war that has shut down the Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's trade oil passes, a war that has set gas prices surging and economists warning of a recession. The exit strategy is a feeling, a bone feeling, but it gets better because in the same interview, Trump also said the U.S. has virtually unlimited ammunition and could, quote, go forever. So on one hand, it'll be over soon. I feel it in my bones. On the other hand, we can go forever. We have unlimited ammo. Those two statements were made in the same breath, the same interviewer on the same radio show. That is not strategy. That is a man who has no idea what he is doing and is hoping the bones come through before the midterms. Now, I need to tell you something that is not funny, not even a little bit. On February the 28th, the first day of Operation Epic Fury, a strike hit a building in Iran. That building was an elementary school. A preliminary assessment by the New York Times, based on U.S. military sources, found that the strike was a U.S. strike. The building was misidentified as part of a nearby military base due to outdated intelligence. At least 175 people were killed. Most of them were children. Pete Hegseth has appointed an outside general to investigate. That is the right call. The investigation doesn't undo what happened. And the man whose war this is, the man who said anytime he wants it to end will end, has not addressed it directly. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand has demanded Hegseth resign over the school bombing. The administration pushback called the CNN reporting on the lack of planning fundamentally unserious. Meanwhile, the investigation is ongoing and the families of those children are still waiting. And then yesterday, March the 14th, U.S. Central Command confirmed that all 6 service members aboard a U.S. KC-135 refueling aircraft that crashed in western Iraq were dead. The military says the crash was not caused by hostile or friendly fire, though an Iran-aligned militia claimed responsibility. The Pentagon is withholding names pending family notification. That brings the total American military deaths in this conflict to 13 and 14 days, from a president who campaigned on the promise of no new wars, from a man who spent years attacking Obama and fighting for foreign entanglements. 13 Americans last 2 weeks. Bones. The White House response to the growing death toll has been to say the economy will bounce right back so fast when it's over. Trump even suggested on Truth Social that higher oil prices are actually good for America because we're the largest oil producer. Soldiers are dying, and the president is looking for the silver lining in gas prices. Here is the part Trump does not want you to focus on. On Wednesday, the same day Trump told the G7 leaders that Iran was about to surrender, U.S. and Israeli intelligence assessments concluded that the Iranian government remains in control and is not currently at risk of collapse. Trump told the world leaders Iran was about to surrender. His own intelligence agency said that was not true. At the same time, Iran's new supreme leader, Moshtaba Khamenei, who Trump says is damaged but probably alive in some form, which is the most casual description of a head of a state I have ever heard, vowed to maintain attacks on U.S. bases and warned that additional fronts could open. Iran's Revolutionary Guard claims they are firing more projectiles now than in early days of the war, in larger numbers, with warheads weighing more than 1 ton. The Strait of Hormuz remains effectively closed. Hexit says there is no clear evidence of mines, but offered no timeline for reopening it. 1/5 of the world's oil supply blocked, and the plan is to fix it. And the plan to fix it is, Hexit says, they have a plan for every option, which is another way of saying they do not have a plan. PBS News Hour analyst Jonathan Capehart said it best this week. This war is as unserious as it is dangerous. And I want to sit with that for a second, because unserious and dangerous is the worst possible combination. Dangerous alone, we could handle dangerous. Dangerous with a plan, dangerous with a strategy, dangerous with clearly defined objectives and an exit. That is what militaries are built for. But unserious means a president telling the world the war is over on Wednesday, while his defense secretary doesn't know if it's the beginning or the middle. Unserious means telling G7 leaders Iran is about to surrender while intelligence says otherwise. Unserious means 13 dead Americans, a bomb to school, a closed oil strait, and an exit strategy that lives somewhere in a skeletal system of one man. Those 13 families are not waiting for a bone feeling. They are not waiting for a reason. They are waiting for someone to look them in the eye and say, your person died for clear objective, with a defined mission, with a plan to bring everyone else home. So far, all they have gotten is when I feel it in my bones. Subscribe to this channel. Every single day we come here and we refuse to let these stories disappear into the news cycle. We hold the receipts, we follow the contradictions, we say the names. I'm Davy Jones Carpenter. I'll see you tomorrow.